I love that. But what is hard is that I have to put aside concerns that I have for things. For example, whenever we have a lot of wind blowing, you need to make sure your lines are, you want to recheck them again, make sure they're secure so your boat's not bumping against the dock, make sure the fenders are where they're supposed to be. Mm-hmm. And then you want to go to lunch, or you're going to go meet with somebody, and you're like, is my boat going to be okay? And so when it's not in your visual, is it going to be okay? Like we were on anchor, and we were trying to do the anchor, we wanted to sleep at anchor, and we left it at anchor all day. And it was an experiment, and we're just going to try it. We got to try it. Can't let any anxiety stop you from trying the things you need to get good at. So we did it.
We got good
It slid
advice.
Around all night.
Well, we got good advice that this was a good spot to anchor.
100%, and that was really good. Local knowledge. That's what they say. Always use local knowledge. So we did it, and all night long. I mean, my anchor alarm was going off. I was up half the night, and because the boat was slipping, but I couldn't tell because it was dark.
Welcome aboard. You're on Lady Grey. Pull up a seat and listen in to an unscripted, unedited conversation between two authors and artists who are sailing the world. We have been married over 20 years, and we still love talking together. With our two boys, we are sailing, looking for treasure, and sharing what we find through conversations. Good morning to you,
Good morning, Jonalyn.
Our voices are still warming up.
We're changing the format. We're doing these in the morning because it's too tiring at night.
We're getting to have children who like to stay up later and later.
Why won't they go to bed?
Well, the oldest is 14, so it makes perfect sense.
He's not the one I'm concerned about.
Well, he's like you in that he gets some of his most creative ideas late at night and is full of conversation. I've heard that as you have teens, that they want to talk late at night.
Well, the one that wants to talk late at night is not a teen. That's what's so funny about this.
Well, last night it was.
Oh, that's good. But our youngest, I sometimes joke with him at night that he is a delay fish from Finding Nemo.
He is. It's
like
true.
You're just a fish that causes delays. It's a complicated emotion.
How does he act when you call him that? Does he act offended or does he like it? Or
he doesn't like
giggle?
it.
I know. I was going to say.
He knows what's going on. That's why. But he doesn't like to be called out in all of his delay tactics.
Last night I was praying for him and I realized he has so many exceptional qualities, and I think
he does.
He is definitely, as they put it, the term gifted and talented, but what I think that means for a lot of kids is they have so many things they can choose from that they're good at. Sometimes it can be hard to know what to choose.
Paralyzing.
Yeah.
I know. And but he just loves to continue to talk. The kid will talk about anything at any time, anywhere.
You know, my mom said I used to be like that. I don't know if that's true, but I often think about how joyful he is when he's allowed to just run with his thoughts verbally.
I know, I agree. I just wish he had parents that could keep up with it. Anyway, that's why we're doing this in the morning before everybody is awake.
And we are right now. It's always, I think, good at the beginning of these now, since we're on the move, is to share where we are. We are in Nyasna, South Africa. We've been here a month, and we will be here for another month. And we are on our boat, Lady Grey, which we will be going forward for several years. And we live aboard, and we sail in the marina and sometimes out in the ocean, but we are getting all the pieces kind of put together, ship-shape for some adventures ahead. And I write and I paint, and you're working with, we both work with the boys, teaching them, home educating them. And how was this week for Bible stories? I wanted to check in with you on that because that's one of your...
Yeah, we finished 2 Kings, and we started Chronicles.
You did.
It's been great because it's so discouraging to read the history of Israel, and Chronicles is this turning point of, hey, do you remember who we are? Because Josiah, just recently, towards the end of 2 Kings, he and the high priest at the time discovered they actually had the books of Moses, and they're like, where did this come from? What's this all about? Which blows my mind.
that they were buried so deep or so
Blows
forgotten.
my mind. Yeah. I mean, yes. And then it turned out nobody had been practicing the Passover. No king had practiced the Passover ever. So it's like, okay, not even David, which is remarkable.
That is.
They forgot it, like during the time of the judges. It kind of faded away. They forgot who they were. And so Chronicles starts off in full force, apparently written about 100 years after the end of Kings, and written, when, I guess maybe when they're in Babylonian captivity, or maybe right afterwards. But at the end of 2 Kings, they're carried off into a foreign nation, and they're subject to a foreign king.
Really a time for the faithful to start thinking.
For everybody to remember if they want to be faithful.
Well, and wondering, when really horrible things happen like that, losing your nation and your community and your wealth, I think a lot of people have that soul searching. Where do we go wrong? A lot of people don't ask, how can we go right, or how can we be more in God's? How can we know that God is delighted with our days unless something goes wrong?
Yeah.
But it's just weird to think that like all those people, like Boaz, was he not keeping the Passover? And was.
Well, they may have, but it said no king.
Oh,
and maybe it was, just little pockets of people.
He wasn't leading. The leaders weren't honoring.
That's right. And you know what, the parallel I see with our own country and with not the USA, but even with modern times in general, world over, everybody forgets. Everybody forgets.
That's true.
Because there's so many dangling, shining objects for everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at our own history, does anybody know what happened in 1913? Did anybody know the constitutional amendments were written that really skewed the entire intention of the United States? No, people don't know. Why don't they know? Because they're not, one, educated on it. So, we don't teach it in our schools. So why don't we teach it in our schools? Well, because the regime has a strong objective not to talk about or critique the things that keep the regime in power. And if you look at over the course of Israel, the things that gave them power was worshiping other gods and aligning themselves with foreign nations, because they thought that would keep them protected. It would keep the money flowing. And they would just stay with the status quo. And I think one of the great corruptions we have among human beings is not that we go off and do blatant evil. Our great corruption is that we just stick with the status quo. The average person just does what everybody is doing. Because it's way too painful and too risky to step out and say, I stand with the truth and I will follow it at all costs. And that is one of the great disillusionments I have in my life. Is thinking when I was younger, I thought if people had the truth, they would want to follow after it. And so, because that's the way I am. And so my quest was like, let me deliver it like treasures to people. And they will want it, and they will want to follow it. And it turns out people don't want that. If you're going to upset the status quo, be quiet, or we will silence you.
Yeah.
And this is beyond the blatant disinformation, misinformation, censorship nonsense. But every day we censor ourselves, we quiet each other, we quiet good people. We prevent ourselves from becoming good people because it's too painful. And I think that's where Israel was at. So it's hard. It's easy for me to fault them, 2,500 years later. But I look around me and I'm like, people will forget in 25 years. Human beings are a sad little lot. Even elephants aren't that bad. Even giraffes and baboons and the average tree, they remember who they are and they live in it. But not human beings. We have the ability to rebel against our nature, and we do a great job at it.
It's always steadying and just rewarding to hear you talk about the Bible, Dale, because I can hear myself going into the norm, the status quo. Even as I'm listening to you, I can feel my mind pushing to say, well, it's because today we have so much technology and
medicine.
And I wasn't going to say that, but yeah, that too. And we're just so distracted by all the things grabbing for our attention. We have too much information to sort through. We can't remember what happened in 1913 in these amendments. But then I think, no, you're absolutely right. There's always something to prevent us from remembering the most significant thing. And nowadays, most adults, even Christians, even followers of Jesus, they're not sure what is the true history to follow. They're not even sure what is the right interpretation of the Bible to believe. And so many of them have given up. They don't read history, they don't read the Bible, and they let someone else once a week interpret it. They let the next movie teach them about history, or the next novel. They don't have conversations about questions they have. And it's not simply our times. This has been a problem for
all time.
Yeah. Which means the solutions that God gives us in the Bible and in friendship with Him are the solutions for these times as well.
Exactly right. You have to wake up every morning and say, I'm going to follow the truth wherever it may lead. And the one that will protect me is God Himself, who is the fountainhead of all reality and all truth and goodness and love. And if He's the one that will protect me and provide for me for following after the truth, surrounded by a bunch of corrupt, normal people, there's no other place to be, no better place to be. Because I guarantee you, the average person will abandon you in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
They are not reliable. God alone is the only reliable one. And He promises to be faithful to those who seek Him. It's easy. It is so easy. It's straightforward. I should say easy to understand. Mm-hmm. Hard to do.
Which is why we need the scriptures to remind us.
That's right. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom.
Yes.
That's right. We need the scriptures to remind us. And I love that the scripture isn't just a bunch of maxims. It's actually mostly a recording of how human beings respond to God.
Yeah.
And so I can put myself alongside them and be like, yeah, I am a tough cookie. I do struggle to pursue. I do struggle with courage. I do struggle with faithfulness. I do struggle with, what the Bible calls sin, which we have done an amazing job in everyday language to abandon what that word means, which is corruption and pollution of our souls and our ability to walk away from what is true and what's good for us. Yeah, it's really encouraging to know that I'm not alone in my foibles, but I'm also not alone when I choose what is good, because God will guide me, and then He'll help me find those pockets of people wherever they are that are on the journey of faithful, just like Boaz, just like Ruth in the middle of all the corruption, just like Josiah in the middle of all the corruption, just like the people we're going to be meeting in our Bible story time, who are in Babylon, in a foreign nation, under foreign gods and foreign kings who have no care or respect for God's people at all. And they'll be like, whoa, I need to be faithful. So if you don't bow down to my great statue, you're thrown into a giant furnace of fire. 3 guys say we're not going to do it. If you don't follow me, I'm going to be thrown into a lion's den. 1 guy says he's not going to follow. And those are encouraging moments, because we can be like them.
I was having a similar conversation this week with my spiritual mentor and friend who has been with me for 20 plus years, as long as our marriage. And we were talking about the cost of me painting the things that I sense God inviting me to paint. And the reality that if I'm going to be painting courageously and showing people what I see, there will be some people who are really not going to like it. And they're not going to come right out and say, your paintings make me uncomfortable. They're going to try to discredit me in other ways. And that doesn't mean I should stop painting.
Same kind of people.
Yes, but it does mean I can be aware that they are out there and that the darkness hates light. The darkness particularly hates light if it's going to shed light on the things they're afraid of.
That's right. And we can have mercy on them, because the reason they're responding that way is because they're afraid.
That's right.
And they may not be someone who collects your paintings and puts them on the wall and takes a stand for, and say, this is what I'm about now. No. But we can have mercy on them as human beings,
That's right.
And not let them gobble up all of our time because we're on a mission.
That is one of the best ways we can have mercy on them. It's to refuse to fixate on their darkness. It also gives me encouragement that when God believes we need the funds, that God will bring the people who care enough about communicating beauty on their walls, and they will come and they will buy my paintings. And in the meantime, my job, just like your job in telling the Bible stories, is to be faithful with our gifts and to share what we see.
Do the best you can. Share what you see.
If already you're curious about Dale's work teaching the Bible, he has put together a Bible study called Stories of Jesus for the Modern Family. And you can find my paintings in the show notes at the end of this episode. All right. Today we wanted to talk about some questions our listeners have sent in about what it's like to actually be on Lady Grey in South Africa. Is it what we expected? They wanted to know. Do you plan to sail to places and kind of stick around for a while, or are you just moving on more quickly? Are your plans going forward? Are they weather dependent, or have your plans changed now that you're actually doing this life as opposed to just thinking about this life? Mm-hmm. This comes from a faithful listener and encourager. Big shout out to you, Jules, across the world. Way on the other side.
I feel like those are two big questions.
Oh, yeah, these are huge questions.
How our expectations are moving on board, and then the other one is how have that changed our future plans? So it's a looking back question. It's a looking forward question.
Yeah, how would you like to answer that?
Well, I think the looking forward question is more fun, but let's do the looking back question briefly.
Okay, I'll do that.
Yeah, we could both do it.
Okay.
How do you feel about? What does it meet your expectation? What do you feel about living aboard? What's it like for you?
Well, I wish someone had just said, sailing aboard, like living aboard, is just a lot like glamorous camping. I think that would have helped me a little bit. I am really glad I didn't. Okay, so let's back up a second. The things I care most about are food and beauty. So cooking has been almost exactly what I expected. The only thing that really, I think, bums me out is that the burners are kind of small, and I just wish my cast iron pan fit fully on them. But if that's like my worst problem, I'm doing pretty good. I have a tiny oven, no gas in our kitchen, so that's been, it's been challenging just to kind of consider that if the electricity isn't enough, we don't have like really cloudy days, or we're not on shore power, I don't actually have enough electricity to cook as much as I would maybe want, but it is enough to feed our family just fine. Beauty-wise, I got a lot of advice about don't bring too many clothes. And now there's several items of clothing I wish I had brought. I don't feel like I have just enough, just a couple things I wish I had with me. But in terms of being properly clothed and looking presentable, I'm just fine. And I'm glad it's not overflowing.
Well, you have like twice as much stuff as I have. I do know that when I just look at the cabinet space.
No, I do. I do have more than you.
But I hear what you're saying.
I just get so tired of seeing the same shirt. Like, I wore that shirt last week. Well, yeah, you're going to wear every shirt pretty much once a week at this rate, because I only have so many warm clothes for cold weather.
That part.
And then I have to have all the clothes for really hot weather.
Because that's what we spend most of our time. Yeah.
Yes, I have to have all of that, but it had to fit in our suitcases. So
yes.
I think the only thing I really wish I had brought is my jean jacket. I just know I could have worn that a lot, and that seems really petty to be sad about that, but I do miss that jean jacket. And clothes are really wearing down fast. Have you noticed that? Like getting holes in them?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, my clothes are getting holes in them.
No, my clothes seem to be just like they are when we're at home.
I should stop thrifting. Maybe they already had holes in them. Oh, that's true. That's a good point. This is home.
You know, when you say that, I think that we took a lot of advice to heart, like don't bring too much stuff.
Yeah, we did.
You know, and so we're like kind of people that say, fine, what is the absolute minimum that we need? And so we went for it, and now we have a ton of extra space on our boat, which I actually am grateful for, because we're so far ahead of the curve. Yeah. We'll accumulate things as we go along.
Yeah, we will.
Like, for example, we have one paddle board, and I know that one paddle board in a family of 4, you know, so that's not like a really fun paddle experience for 3 other people. So we'll probably get one more of those, right? That takes up space. Yeah. And I would love to take up and try wing foiling, or at least, you know, just the wing, whatever they call it. And, you know, I would love to try it. It's like sailing
Yeah.
on a paddleboard, sailing on a little surfboard, and it folds up really small. So
we have space for it, and we have space for the foldable bikes we want to get.
and we have a lot of spares we got to get, like little water pumps here and things there that,
Yes.
just in case it breaks on the boat, we have it to do a swap out, and then we keep going on our way. So we have the extra space. I'm thankful for it, and I know that even my clothes, I think I can minimize even some more as we get into warmer weather.
Yeah, we I'm sure we could, but it's like I like seeing my family and myself in different clothes. Like I'm realizing Finn wears the same he only has I think 2 pairs of pants or 3 pairs of
Well,
pants.
the poor guy's growing so fast, so that part makes sense.
No, he chose that, and that's a blessing because he doesn't demand a lot of clothes.
I don't even notice, honestly.
You don't?
So it's so great.
Oh my gosh, it's so interesting.
It's so great for me that I don't notice.
I'm pretty
I feel
visual.
so sad for you. That
I'm like,
this is
I'm so
suddenly bothering
tired
you.
of looking at you in that blue shirt. Actually, that's not true. I like that blue shirt a lot. You could wear it a lot more. I love it on you. It looks very nice.
I just started wearing this blue shirt.
Oh, it was a joke because that's what you're wearing
that's
right
funny.
now.
Oh, yeah.
I did want to say something about preparing and expectations. I don't think I expected to get sick as much as we did. That was really hard. We're such a healthy family that getting that many stomach bugs that often, and I'm realizing we are getting the worst of the winter sicknesses in a new continent. So I think,
It hit us different.
yeah, I think
Differently.
so. Though I have heard people talking about this being a terrible year for sicknesses.
You're right.
in
Other
South
other
Africa.
people who are full time here have talked about being very ill.
Yes.
That part's good, but we also stopped drinking the water, which apparently is hit or miss. Some days it's great, some
Yeah.
days it's not. But we don't know what days those are, so we've been
Yes.
doing purified water
That is
every
true.
day.
I didn't expect with painting that I was gonna have this much room for my painting supplies. So that's been great. I wish I had brought more of my original paintings because I'm going to have an open studio party on the boat, and I wish I had more originals to be able to share.
Yeah.
I'm just painting like mad to have enough to show.
Right.
And that's okay. That's great that I can paint quickly, but I just wish I had brought some of those originals with me.
I know that the bag that we put the originals in, we had no space left. We maxed it out.
You're right.
And we would have to have had
We
a
did.
totally different system on the airplane to get it here.
No, I was just thinking like some of my minis, like just
Yeah.
5 more paintings, but it's okay.
I'm sorry.
No, it's all right.
I think for me, a lot. I think a lot of my expectations are met. I think I visualized what it would be like, and part of my expectation was how steep the learning curve would be. And it's not just about learning the systems. Living on the boat to me has been very easy and comfortable. No issues at all. I like when I step outside. It is like that RV experience, which we did the van life for a while. It is like that experience where you're in your little cocoon and then you step out and you're like, now we're suddenly outside and you're in this space. But it's so different to me stepping out into a marina than stepping out into an RV campground. I don't know, there's just something just way cooler and better and more
that's
lovely
true.
to me about
I
stepping
agree.
out next to the water. So I love that. But what is hard is that I have to put aside concerns that I have for things. For example, whenever we have a lot of wind blowing, you need to make sure your lines are, you want to recheck them again, make sure they're secure so your boat's not bumping against the dock, make sure the fenders are where they're supposed to be. Mm-hmm. And then you want to go to lunch, or you're going to go meet with somebody, and you're like, is my boat going to be okay? And so when it's not in your visual, is it going to be okay? Like we were on anchor, and we were trying to do the anchor, we wanted to sleep at anchor, and we left it at anchor all day. And it was an experiment, and we're like, we're just going to try it. We got to try it. Can't let any anxiety stop you from trying the things you need to get good at. So we did it.
We got good
It slid around
advice.
all night.
But we got good advice that this was a good spot to anchor.
100%, and that was really good. Local knowledge. That's what they say.
we
Always
did.
use local knowledge. So we did it, and all night long, I mean, my anchor alarm was going off. I was up half the night, and because the boat was slipping, but I couldn't tell because it was dark, and I wish I had a rangefinder just so I could see that little point over there. I just want to see if we're closer to it or not. I can't tell. I'm literally staring at it, and then
I'm just
the next
you carried all that anxiety on your shoulders for us.
Totally, but you had to put it down because I can't sleep when I'm anxious. So I'm just like, you know what? Rationally, everything looks like it's fine. So just go to sleep. Go to sleep. Next morning, wake up. Boat's still here. Everything is fine. We're on a tidal current that's going back and forth and swinging the boat.
We thought we were
okay. We go to lunch, We come back and we were only like 20 feet from a dock that had we been gone at lunch 15 minutes longer, it could have been a very sad tale of our boat banging up on a dock and other people having to rescue it, and then we need to get some repairs and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, wow, God protected us in that. I got back, and to me it was pretty calm. We're like, whoa, we're right next to the dock. What do we need to do? We need to start up the engines, pull up that anchor, reset it, get repositioned where we need to be.
But it was very, I think we both were sober about how scary it could have been, but we also were like, what can we do? We just have to clean up the little bit of the mess that we can. And I thought it was really great. You put Finn on the dinghy and he just did donuts and circles around us while we were trying to pull the anchor up, reset the anchor.
Because we didn't have time to hoist the dinghy. We needed to move the boat. And if I tied the dinghy up just behind the boat, if I needed to do any reversing, I'd be banging into the dinghy. I didn't want that. So Finn was great. He was a great sport. I taught him a lot of little tips and secrets the day before, and saying this is how you run it. This is different. Gave him some training, and sure enough, he just took it like a duck on water. He just like whoa, he's just going circles and going around. He's like, Dad, this is getting kind of boring. I'm like, wow, what 14-year-old do you know says it's boring to be driving around a 25 horsepower boat around a lagoon? I mean.
Well, it was boring for him because he couldn't leave us. He had to just avoid boats. And that's the other thing is while we're trying to reset the dinghy, it's a beautiful day, so there's a lot of people out in the lagoon, and they're coming up, saying hello to us, trying to sneak between us and the dock and do circles around us looking at our boat, thinking that we're just hanging out pulling our anchor.
I like the color of your boat. We're like, thank you. Now go away.
We're in a very stressful situation. I can't get the anchor up and fast enough.
Wish I could chat. Wish I had some tea for you right now. We're trying to save our lives.
I know everyone has these sweet, wonderful South African accents. I seriously feel like I'm in the Gods Must Be Crazy all the time, talking with the scientists, the biologists.
It is so funny.
Picking up dung.
And then we've had winds up to 62 miles per hour sitting in the marina. Yesterday we had winds almost to 40. And one side of our boat was getting really close to the dock. I mean, inches. And we had some...
No, like 2 inches away.
And and we're trying to make the lines tighter. And it's like a geometry problem. Trying to figure out...
reverse Tetris.
We have 8 lines tied to the boat.
Perfectly. No, I know.
And then, or 10. And it's like trying to figure out when you loosen this one, what does the boat do?
Yes.
And what do I need to tighten to correspond to? And it's not just a one for one. I release this one on the back there and release this on the back here. It's like, no, I release this on the back here and the middle one on the front on the other side. They're like, wow, this is...
Well,
but it was great because other people came by and they helped push our boat against the wind. Leaned on our boat so we could tighten lines.
It was great because
everything
we have
worked out.
little Ollie and Finn and I and you, and we're all pushing this enormous boat against the wind, against 50-mile-an-hour winds, and we're trying to hold it, which is futile. We have to kind of just go with the waves.
Well, 50 be exaggerated, but definitely 30.
It wasn't 50? It was 30.
Yesterday was pushing 40 at the big gusts. So
it wasn't 50.
But when we were pushing on the boat, we were waiting for it to calm down in moments, which, maybe calm down to 25 to 30 just to get it.
So back to my story, trying to set up a visual, because I'm very visual about this. I want people to be able to imagine it. We're pushing the boat, and we cannot get it to hold, because you have to push it, and then you have to retie the line. But in the time you untie and retie the line, it's moved back. Yeah. So there was first 1, then 2, and then 3 different guys, adult males, come and help us. And it was totally like it was on the roads in Moab, Utah, where... You got your Jeep is damaged.
When you're with a group of people that are going off
rally together, and you're all working together, and they all are laughing and like, okay, try this. All right, I think you need to untie the stern line. Okay, undo that, and then, and you're working together, and the boys are all part of it, and seeing everyone teamwork together, and then it's tied up. You have a foot now instead of 2 inches, and then everyone just laughs and says, "Oh, that's the fun of being on a boat in a marina," and they all laugh, and then they go back to their thing. And I love that teamwork and care for each other, not expecting any payment, not expecting that you owe them now. It's very different from the way I was raised, and I love that goodwill towards each other, the kindness.
Yeah, I had a good conversation with Finn about that yesterday. Afterwards.
Oh, good.
about how, boat guy people have to look out for each other, and we may not be able to help out the people who just helped us, but there's going to be other people who are in the middle of wanting to do something, but you see somebody else might have some potential damage on their boat if somebody isn't there to throw a fender in or tie off an extra line or whatever it is, and they might not even be around. So you just go over there and you do what you can to try to shore it up just a little bit, and because you want somebody to do that for you. But after we tied it all up, we went off on a little eco tour.
Yeah,
scooter tours, and
that was cool.
I had to tamp down the anxiety. Is my boat okay? Are the lines holding?
Yeah.
The wind shift? Is the wind increase? And
did I put enough fenders out? A fender is like a buoy. It's just like a big pocket of air inside a plastic casing. I'm realizing we're using terms that a lot of people don't even know what some of these things are.
Yes, fender is it's a thing you put next to your boat that
like a buoy. People would probably think of it as a buoy.
That's between your boat and the dock to keep your boat from scratching.
And so you ask yourself, did I put enough fenders out on the right side, and are they in the right spot? So in this tiny, really, these docks are not made for as wide as this catamaran. And so you just hope, because you only have a few feet on each side, you hope that the lines hold and that the fenders are in the correct spot. So if it does rub against the dock, which it has, it will have a fender between the paint and the...
That's right.
It's like a moving, bobbing around car.
It's like bubble wrap on things you package and ship. It's your little tiny bubble wraps.
That's exactly right.
And with your lines are right, and the fender's in the right place, everything's fine. And you sleep well.
It is. So back to the expectations. You believed there was going to be a big learning curve.
I believe the steep learning curve, and that's part of the steep learning curve for me, is just how to take care of my boat in all these different situations. But things have been great. I mean, I imagine myself motoring out of the marina, in and out of the marina, because that to me is much more difficult than sailing, because there's all these other boats everywhere, and if you don't motor correctly, you could cause severe amounts of tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars of damage. If the wind picks up and it blows you into another boat, you got your boat, you got their boat to fix, and maybe two other boats to fix because you did another bang job trying to get out from the first boat. So I knew that was going to be a challenge, and so just bucking up and saying, okay, what's it going to be? When are you going to do it? On calm days, you go out. And we first hired a captain to help us go in and out a bit and do some docking practice, get to know how these engines work. It's kind of like when you get a rental car and you suddenly realize that, wow, this brake is really sensitive, and your whole family lurches forward because you pressed it. Even though you pressed it gently, it was too hard. You're like, wow, I'm getting to know this new car. The boat is the same way. What do these engine throttle, buttons and push levers do, and how much power does it give it when I push it this hard, and all that kind of stuff. And now we've gone in and out of the marina many times.
Yes.
And gotten used to it and feeling more comfortable with it, and it's fantastic. But I knew there was this big hump, this learning curve to get over.
And that's where you and I had some tension, is that if we didn't leave the marina, we couldn't get fresh water and we couldn't dump our tanks. And so we're getting sick, our tanks are getting full, we don't have fresh water. We hadn't learned how to use shore water yet. And it was this really dicey 3 weeks of being so sick and feeling stuck with full tanks and not enough water. That was very hard on me. I know looking back, I'll realize that was really unpleasant. And it was hard because in my mind, I was like, why aren't we learning to go out? Like, come on, we got to learn this. And I tend to rush things, and then you tend to take your time, and so that can be a major clashing point. I'm sharing this not because I'm at all upset. I'm sharing this because I want our listeners to know it wasn't all smooth, and we had to get to a point where I was like, I can't stay on this boat unless we have these tanks dumped, and you're like, but I can't get out unless I have a captain to show me how to use these motors, and we have to have a good day.
The risk is too high. It's like throwing all your money in Bitcoin when it's at its peak. It's like, the risk is too high, don't do it.
Right. And I'm like, well, that's fine, but we have to move off the boat then, because I can't continue to make this a home for us with these conditions.
But then we'd have the captain go with us. The captain has to, and we could do it with the captain, no problem. And they don't cost too much. So the conditions had to be right. The wind has to be right.
That's where I was going. We
sorry.
also had to wait for the right wind, because if it was too much wind, it was very dangerous. This is a tight marina. It's like you have to go in and then you have to turn on a dime. Thankfully, the catamaran has 2 motors, one in each hull. So you can actually, one go forward, one go back, and then spin. Very different from like a monohull. So,
which is your traditional looking sailboat.
Yes, 1 hull in the water. So with 2 hulls in the water, which is what a catamaran is, you can maneuver really well, but you have to learn your motors. So all that to say, once we learned how to get out by ourselves, which has really happened in the last 2 weeks, it has started to feel like, okay, and the boys are like, it's okay, we can use our bathrooms. We don't have to walk up to the marina bathroom because we're going to go out and dump our tanks.
Out in the ocean. Yeah, so...
Okay, so that's what expectations were. And then...
It is vulnerable. It is vulnerable.
Oh, it is.
I think that one thing I didn't account for was just, is the weather. The weather tells you what you can do that day. You can't, it's not, I mean, I see these cars pull out of their little homes, in town while we're walking around because we, rarely get a rental car. We're walking everywhere. And you're like, that dude did not have to look at the weather forecast.
To go to the store.
To go to the store today.
I know.
Or to get out, or to go to be able to get drinking water.
I know.
But we are weather dependent on those things. So the idea of planning ahead and making sure you have enough reserves and all those things, we've developed little plans for it.
And we're not aces at it. Like yesterday, I'm like, if I had known it was going to blow this hard, I don't know if I would have left Lady Grey to go on this scooter tour. But we already planned it. And we planned it on purpose to be the bad day because we thought the bad day we can't take the boat out and practice sailing. But I didn't think of the marina. Just all these things.
I know.
This is how you learn. This is how you learn.
And you make sure your lines are right. And in the morning, yesterday morning, before we left, I was going to check all my lines because I knew, because we're looking at the weather now, the forecast constantly. I'm looking at it multiple times a day.
You are.
Several days out.
I'm not yet. I'm relying on you.
And the wind came early.
It did.
And so it was starting to blow heavy, and I'm like, I have not readjusted all the lines to make sure we're ready for this.
That's why what we're learning
yesterday.
Yeah, is that you cannot rely on the weather as if it's a schedule. The weather isn't like, oh, it's 10 o'clock, time to blow. It's just an estimate now. It's made mostly by algorithms. I'm not algorithms, AI. But all that to say, I'm looking at the time, and I do want to move into sort of our expectations of travel, because that's where a lot of people go. Like, did you expect to stay in Nyasna in South Africa this long?
Do you think we can get through this quickly?
Yeah.
Okay.
I do. Because we expected to be in Cape Town by now.
Yes.
Provisioning, getting ready. We were told that's a great place to shop and get stuff. But
which is why we spent 10 days there before we came to Nyasna to pick up the boat.
Yeah,
so we could get familiar with Cape Town by land in a rental car, in a Airbnb, so that when we came back in our boat, we were ready to go. We're like, we know where all the spots are.
Yes,
we need to do
by land meaning on land, not we're going to purchase land. Yes, on land.
On land.
Mm-hmm, exactly. And then we came to Nyasna, and I think they were pretty much on schedule and shaking down our boat and fixing things. Mm-hmm. But we still find little things here and there, and our thought is, why not make sure everything is shipshape? And we're hearing the weather and the rain is just terrible in Cape Town, like much more gloomy, colder, and wetter. And
this month has been treacherous getting over to Cape Town in the ocean because of the weather you're speaking about.
Yeah, this is their February, right? We're not into March yet, until September, I think.
Yeah, we're in the middle of February.
So it's their coldest, rainiest, and biggest storms. And Nyasna is this wonderful garden route town that is it's like a little Laguna Beach. So many things to enjoy. Mountains, wonderful, friendly people. Cape Town is more of an urban experience, and so you get with it more urban crime and just more of that standoffish attitude. And
endless supply of urban resources.
True.
So Cape Town has resources everywhere. Whereas Nyasna has these really tiny places to get boating supplies. Mm-hmm. They're like, oh, if I want to get that, I have to order it. Where do you order from? Cape Town, because they have the extensive warehouses over in Cape Town. And all, huge food lots and the wholesalers and all that. So Cape Town is a fantastic place for all that, but we don't have to do it yet.
That's right. We have the benefit of time on our side. We have a lot more time here than we would have in other places because the weather is so bad until November, we can't even do our ocean crossing. And we knew that going in. We knew we were moving to South Africa for a chunk of time, 6 months, we were thinking. So instead of spending most of it in Cape Town, we've just decided to spend most of it in Nyasna. We have enough of a community here that I have plans for an open studio party. I'm going to be sharing my art of South Africa with the locals here. We've made 20 to 30 friends. It's really been incredible. The South African people are so open and kind. I did not expect that. I don't anticipate we're going to get to spend this much time in any country. If we did, we would never finish a circumnavigation. Of course, that might not end up being our final goal, but we're enjoying starting out by having at least one culture stay the same while everything else has been changing. And I think our plans to cross, we were originally hoping to cross in early November. That may still happen, but with the weather windows, again, you don't schedule.
And the availability of captains.
Yes. But what I was going to say is it's safer to wait till the end of November, and our captain is available at the end of November. So we may be pushing our crossing into December now, which this sort of delay, that is a normal part of sailing life. You're constantly adjusting to unforeseen circumstances that you cannot prepare for completely. Weather, sickness, availability of crew, and it's not because we've done anything wrong. And I think that's sort of a modern, even an American mentality. Like, if your plans get changed, what did you do wrong to fix it? And I'm realizing that's not reality. That's not actually wisdom. On a boat, you always have to hold the plans loosely. And that's okay, because I think we were prepared for that.
100%. I think it's like that with the farmer as well.
Yeah.
People who are dependent on the weather, the rain coming, when you're going to work that day, the animals behaving.
Yeah.
The equipment is up ready for the task, doesn't need repair, all that kind of stuff. We are choosing a lifestyle that is follows the cadence and rhythm of nature. That's what I feel like what we're in now. We're not defying nature by having a well-built house that cannot be blown down, by having cars that can move over this very unnatural pavement to smoothly get to where we need to go. All those things, as great as they are, It's and technology is actually defined as making nature conform to us, rather than us conforming to nature. And being in a nice sailboat like this is making nature conform to us in some ways. You can't just you can't walk on water, and you can't run around in the elements without clothing on. So there's a lot of things about technology that are good, but we are subjecting ourselves to nature, and the only way you can do oceans is by being in the ocean, and you have to stand before the awe of what nature brings and plan accordingly. But that's the way human history has always been. Yeah. And I think that we've disconnected ourselves from it in the modern world. And right now, what I like is that we're reconnecting ourselves in some, halfway. In
a small and
place.
limited way, yes. I think that's what captures people's imaginations when they think we're going to do an ocean crossing is, wow, you're going to face that. And everyone knows, either from history or just from experience, you cannot tame the ocean. Just like you couldn't tame that S-turn going up to Whitewoods when we lived in Steamboat, Colorado. We came up with that little
phrase. It will
always
be a 22% grade no matter what you do to it.
We have to respect the incline. We have to respect the hill. You cannot just muscle your way up. You will slide down backwards and hit an aspen and crack your...
break your radiator, and the tree will fall on your roof.
Yes. And I'm also reminded, Finn is reading the story of Esther, and it reminded me of Xerxes. I think he was the guy who was in a naval battle, and the waves, the Bosphorus strait, there was like some area of ocean that was not cooperating. The waves or the tides were keeping him from winning the battle, and so he ordered all his men to whip the waves as discipline for not cooperating with him.
That's funny.
I thought, that's pretty much the extent of your power against this ocean. It will do what all the forces that God put into nature will do, and you must respect that.
Yeah.
And it's like a very fascinating and challenging puzzle to figure out how we're going to cross and keep our stomachs and continue to teach our boys and cook and stay healthy and navigate the ocean. We have this captain we're working with who's like, okay, you guys are relatively new to ocean crossing. Let's think of some scenarios. There's 50-mile-an-hour winds. We have to do manual steering. Something breaks. Someone has to go up the mast. Let's think through all these contingency plans. He's like, I'm not trying to scare you guys. I just want to make sure we're all able to handle this. And what's really awesome to me is when he shared that, I wasn't scared.
Yeah,
I know those things could happen, and that's what we signed up for when we put the deposit on
Right.
this
It's
boat.
like everything you're saying are my expectations.
But I don't.
And I know the learning curve is coming.
I don't know how to do this, but I'm ready to learn. I am.
You know, when you say that, there's a lot of superstition around sailing culture, which is all new to me in the last 2 or 3 years. And even when people dedicate boats. When they launch,
yes.
they do these rituals, and they practically pray to Poseidon that he will have mercy on them. And you have to pour champagne into the ocean, say this is the part that's for Poseidon. And whenever they cross the equator, there's this whole Poseidon ritual that people do. Neptune, I think, is the Roman name for Poseidon.
That's right.
And that people do, and there's superstitions around. Well, that didn't work, or the reason why they were shipwrecked, or the reason why they were caught off course, or the reason why they had such a miserable time.
They had a woman on board, or they had a banana on board, or they had...
or Poseidon is not happy.
Yeah.
And
I never even supposed to say his name, I think.
And I understand why people historically have assigned gods to the sea. It is an unruly, unfathomable power. But when I look at all that, I think, but I have a greater than Poseidon with me. It is he that is the one who, with just a word, can calm the storm and the waves. And he's the one that keeps us. And to me, that's way, way more important than these silly rituals to Poseidon that make humans look like buffoons. So
funny.
People, even in saying that, there are people that be like, whoa, don't mess around, man. You better don't mess around with Poseidon, you're bringing bad luck on yourself. And I'm like, you know what? Those aren't games that I play, because I know someone who's greater than Poseidon, and he is with us on our vessel. And if our vessel goes down, it's simply because he had an appointment to keep with me, and we are with him in life or in death. Poseidon doesn't love me. Poseidon loves his stupid sea and his trident and all his fake mermaids. But the God of Israel loves me, and he will be with me to the end. So I'll toast to that when I set sail, and I'll toast to that when I cross the equator. The God of heaven and earth, thanks for giving us this journey. Give us safe passage till we reach harbor.
That's right.
But anyway,
expectations, we'll continue to revisit them. I'm sure there'll be many adjustments.
Well, some of my expectations are, what our sailing journey, that was a big one for us. That's one of the ones I want to talk about when we talked about this in this podcast.
Please.
So it wasn't just about, okay, we're staying a little bit longer in Niza, then we're going to Cape Town. We'll spend a couple of months in Cape Town, then we cross the Atlantic. All those plans are the same. But once you cross the Atlantic, it's winter time in the Northern Hemisphere. So it's not like we could scoot straight up to Maine and New Hampshire, which is, we were excited about. You have to hang out in the Caribbean all through the winter. And then, in around April, May is when you start turning your nose north and doing all that. So
to answer the question, are your plans weather dependent? 100%. Yes.
100%, seasonal dependent, weather dependent, all that. So, going all the way up to New Hampshire, which is our current plan, is great. But I'm also feeling like when sitting in Niza, going to Cape Town, feeling the cadence of nature, but also looking at our own timeline of our lives and our health, which thankfully is good, of our boys growing up. All of that, that's not slowing down. That's all continuing to follow in the same march and cadence. Is that, do I want to go to New England? I've been to New England. I've spent many, many, many summers on the coast of New England. Yes, I would love to sail the Maine coast because it's a beautiful sailing waters. I've done that. I've done that in small boats. I've done it in open cruising boats. I've already done that, and I think it's awesome and magical. But if I go do that, that takes me out for another year. I won't be back in the Caribbean for a year because I go up there during hurricane season. You can't be in the Caribbean during the hurricanes. So you go all the way up there to be safe, but to enjoy that. Then you got to go back down to the Caribbean. Then you have to wait all the way till December or whatever if you want to cross the Pacific Ocean. Or if you want to cross over to the across the Atlantic, you got to go to the Mediterranean. Or if you want to go up the west coast of California, Oregon, Washington, up into, Vancouver Island and all that, which would be magical. And I haven't sailed those waters, and I think that would be lovely. Do I want to scoot across to Hawaii? Do I want to go to the South Pacific? Do we want to go down to Ecuador over to the Galapagos? Do we want to make our way? Do we have a goal of hitting New Zealand and Australia and Tonga and Fiji? All those wonderful places. Or do I want to gobble up all my time going to my old haunts up in New Hampshire and Maine? Do I have that kind of time? And I think one of my regrets, if I were to walk away with regrets from this, one of my regrets would be, oh, but Dale, we can't do that because your sons are getting older. They have to go to, look at colleges or other, vocational schools or even just starting other kinds of jobs and careers. Oh, we can't do that because this happened, or we can't do that because this health issue came up. You're like, wow, why did I use my time in exploring the world to explore places I've already explored?
That's a big deal.
And so that's one of the little doubts and nagging things in the back of my mind. But I already made a promise to Jonalyn that we definitely would stop in South Carolina because there are things we need to pick up there that we could not take on the airplane to South Africa. So that is, to me, is the only condition. And if it means I have to go up to Key West, park in the marina, get a rental car, and just by myself beeline it straight up to South Carolina to get all those things and come back again and make sure they're all in the boat. If I have to do that, so be it. No big deal. But that is, to me, the only other big check mark, a requirement that we need before we can follow the compass and decide where we want to go.
I think what you're revealing too is that the journey itself is changing us, so of course that will change our future plans.
Yeah. If we could guarantee that we would be healthy, if we can guarantee that our boys just would stay with us to the end of time, that it's like, yeah, great, everybody, this is just great. But we don't have that luxury yet. And maybe God will reveal that. Maybe the boys will find jobs and career paths that can start to launch them even while we're sailing. And it could even be in the nautical world that they decide they want to do that because they'll have some experience in their own hands-on training. But we don't know that.
We don't know.
So I have to...
And you don't know how hard I will be to live with if we don't go to New England and see all our friends. Just kidding.
See what I got to deal with all the time? See, the listeners are listening.
So that is part of the challenge too, is that you are operating constantly in
Maybe
a family
you could drive to New England.
vacation mode.
We could get a rental car.
Let me finish my thought.
Oh, sorry.
You're constantly working in where do you want to go? Well, where do you want to go? Well, I want to go here, but I don't want you to be upset about it. So we're constantly having to make those decisions.
Well, we're renting 2 cars in Key West. I'm getting our stuff in South Carolina. You're going out to visit your friends up in New Hampshire. And so that'll be great.
My friends, they're not your friends.
Yeah, they're my friends, but you can just Skype me in, or whatever they call it now. Zoom me in when we need to.
Okay, guys. Lady Grey Life is what we do together, but we also do things separately. We've already shared that Dale has Bible curriculum for the whole family. If you're looking to discuss the meatier things of Scripture, Dale helps families access the Bible so that parents can teach their children from the good book. Look at stories of Jesus for the modern family, and make sure you choose the Lifetime edition to include all those discussion questions written by me. I own a fine arts business, and my goal is to invite you into joy with my art. You can take a look at my shop for regular new paintings of our travels, and definitely subscribe to my blog. And if you have a special person, memory, or place in your life, and let's be honest, who doesn't, I'd be glad to talk more about painting for you.
And it's a wonderful thing to know the artist is not just making beautiful paintings, but living a beautiful life.
And you can take a class from us. For example, how to become a more spiritually healthy Christian. Check out Thinkific in the show notes. And if you'd like to ask a question or share some feedback about our sailing life or our life with God, you can email us directly at hello@dalefincher.com. We'll catch you next time on Lady Grey.